Good evening. We begin tonight keeping him honest with the congressman who cannot do the same for himself, and the House leadership who so far won't do it for him, though leaders now in his own district, in his own party, are trying to. They want him out. So does the New York State Party chairman. We're talking, of course, about George Santos, the freshman Republican congressman from New York who lied about nearly all aspects of his life to help get himself elected. Late today, yet another freshman New York House Republican, Brandon Williams, joined the call for him to quit. As for Santos, he says he's not going anywhere.
I will not. Guys, we're gonna need a little space here.
New York Republicans are calling you a disgrace. You will not resign.
Now, of course, who knows if that's true? Almost nothing he has said about his life and career has been so far. This is the same George Santos who said he worked at Goldman Sachs, which was a lie, who said he worked at Citigroup, which he didn't, meaning that too was a lie. He's the same George Santos who lied about the high school he went to in New York and the college he said he graduated from. He said it was Baruch College and he got a degree in economics and finance. He didn't. He even told a Republican leader in his district he'd been a star athlete at Baruch.
Told me, I remember specifically, I'm into sports a little bit, that he was a star on the Baruch volleyball team and that they won the league championship. And what can I tell you?
Santos can tell you a lot. That's Nassau County Republican Chairman Joseph Cairo, who today called on Congressman Santos to resign.
He deceived the voters of the 3rd Congressional District. His lies were not mere fibs. He disgraced the House of Representatives. He's not welcome here at Republican headquarters.
What George Santos has done is a shanda, which he probably doesn't feel, but would understand what it meant if he was Jewish, as he pretended to be. He lied about that, too.
Shabbat shalom to everybody, and thank you for being here. Lee has served as an inspiration, as a friend, and as a leader for the Jewish folks in Congress and for all of us in this room by at one point being just 2 members. So now we're going to be 3.
Again, he's not Jewish. And when caught lying about being Jewish, he lied about ever having lied about it.
I always joke, I'm Catholic, but I'm also Jew-ish, as in ish. And I've made that joke because growing up, I grew up fully aware that my grandparents were Jewish.
He also lied about them, too, falsely claiming that they had fled the Holocaust. Congressman Santos lied as well about having, quote, lost 4 employees, end quote, in the Pulse nightclub mass shooting. He's also facing check fraud charges from his time in Brazil. And here at home, a federal investigation in the Eastern District of New York, which a source familiar with the matter tells us is focused on his finances. Nassau County authorities are conducting their own investigation. Yesterday, 2 Democrats filed a formal complaint with the bipartisan House Ethics Committee. Today, Republican Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick called for the committee to conduct an expedited review of the case while saying his GOP colleague did not belong in the House.
His conduct was egregious. I personally don't think he should be here. But I think the Ethics Committee has to do their work. It should be done quickly, and they should return to the House with their findings, and then we act.
Well, just one problem with that so far is Congressman Fitzpatrick's boss, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, is disinclined, or seems disinclined, to do just that, to act.
There is a concern, and he has to go through the ethics. We'll let him move through that. But right now, the voters have a voice in the decision. It's not where people pick and choose based upon what somebody's press says. So he will continue to serve.
So I mean, he himself has admitted to fabricating parts of his resume.
Yeah, and so did a lot of people here in the Senate and others. But the one thing I think, it's the voters who made that decision. He has to answer to the voters, and the voters can make another decision in 2 years.
No, McCarthy said if there's a concern, which is a little bit like saying about a tidal wave, if there's moisture. There's no if here, not when party officials from his own district say they've already seen enough, or in the case of the party chairman, lied to enough.
I am calling for his immediate resignation.
McCarthy also seems to be making something of a false equivalency when he says other lawmakers have embellished or outright fabricated parts of their resumes. 36 years ago, then presidential candidate Joe Biden, and yes, he ran for president in 1987, borrowed heavily from a British politician's highly acclaimed speech and quite incredibly failed to attribute it to him. Former Georgia Senate candidate Herschel Walker, of course, made up the claim during his campaign that he was a member of law enforcement despite only having an honorary badge. The former president has often exaggerated his business accomplishments, obviously, but none is even playing in the same league as George Santos, who has lied about just about any and every facet of his life. This is all-star team stuff. Yet again, listen to Speaker McCarthy.
The voters made the decision, and he has a right to serve here. If there is something that rises to the occasion that he did something wrong, then we'll deal with that at that time.
So why is Speaker McCarthy intent on doing nothing for now? One reason may be simple arithmetic. If George Santos resigns, the seat will be vacant until a special election is held, which will cut Speaker McCarthy's narrow legislative majority by one. Price for it being a congressman, of course, whom some fellow Republicans in Washington and back home say they don't trust and should not be serving, if serving is even the right word. It's like the old joke. Guy tells his friend, my brother thinks he's a chicken. The friend asks, why don't you take him to a psychiatrist? I can't. The guy says, we need the eggs. Congressman Santos appears to be a pathological liar, and it's no joke, but McCarthy may need the votes. I want to go to CNN's Melanie Zanona at the Capitol. So, Melanie, Speaker McCarthy again today say he wouldn't ask Santos to resign at this point. Is it likely that Santos is going to face any sort of ethics review or scrutiny from his own party in the House?
Well, I can tell you that the House Ethics Committee is usually very tight-lipped about investigations or even the existence of an investigation. But two Democrats did formally file an ethics complaint. They walked it over to Santos's office, and they want the House Ethics Committee to look into his financial disclosure forms, which have raised a lot of questions. And several other Republicans have also called for an ethics investigation. Now, we should point out, though, that the House Ethics Committee typically does not like to interfere with ongoing probes, either at the federal level or state level. And also, they can only make disciplinary recommendations. They actually could send it to the full House, but then it would be up to the full House to act on something like censure or expulsion. So it remains to be seen what they come up with if they decide to investigate. But then again, it would be up to the full House to do that. And
can you talk about any political calculus that may be involved for McCarthy or others to not want Santos to resign immediately?
Speaker Kevin McCarthy said the reason he doesn't want Santos to resign is because it's up to his voters to decide that. But there is another political reality here, and GOP sources told me that GOP leadership is very aware of the fact that if Santos were to step down, there would be a special election. And remember, this is a very blue district. It was a Biden-won district. And in a special election, you would have a ton of attention on this race. You would have a lot of people who would come out just to vote against George Santos, or an anti-George Santos vote. And there's a very likelihood that Democrats could win that seat back. And so it would make the House GOP's razor-thin majority even slimmer. And that is something that is certainly weighing on the minds of Republican leaders, Anderson.
So is Santos, while he's in Congress, for however long that may be, is he going to get committee assignments? Do we know?
He will get committee assignments. Kevin McCarthy told us today that he does plan to put Santos on some committees. He said he really wants to give Santos an opportunity to build some trust. He also is planning to meet with him in the coming days to try to really talk to him and get a handle on this new member of his. But Kevin McCarthy did say that he was not going to be giving him A-list committee assignments. So those are top-tier committees. And in fact, a source told my colleague Mani Raju, that he wanted to actually serve on the House Financial Services Committee. That is a top-tier committee, but GOP leaders rejected it. Anderson.
Melanie Zanona, appreciate it. Thank you. I want to get perspective now from CNN Chief Political Correspondent and State of the Union co-anchor Dana Bash, also CNN political commentator and former Pennsylvania Republican Congressman Charlie Dent. Dana, you heard Speaker McCarthy's comments on Santos, that the voters elected him to serve. I'm wondering what you make of McCarthy's position, considering they voted for him based on fraudulent information.
Right. I mean, that's really the bottom line. Speaker McCarthy is saying what he's saying for two reasons. Number one is because of the arithmetic that you talked about at the beginning of the show. He only has a 4-vote majority, which we saw on display in a painful way all last week. And it is very possible that if this district, the 3rd district, is part of a special election, then it could go blue, especially given what we're seeing with Santos. And the other is that there is a process. There is a process that is happening now in the courts, and there is a process that will happen in the Ethics Committee. So we have seen leaders in both parties take a beat and let that process continue. That is not stopping his colleagues from calling on him to resign. I talked to a Republican who knows this very well, a sitting Republican member earlier tonight, who said that at this point, there's no indication that Santos is going to resign because he clearly has no shame.
Congressman Dent, I mean, as a former colleague of McCarthy's in the House, what do you make of the position he is in, the handling of it thus far?
Well, I serve with Kevin McCarthy. I consider him a friend. But in this case, I think Speaker McCarthy must put the institutional interests ahead of the partisan interests. What he should do is summon George Santos to his office and tell him it appears all these accusations are true. The letter sitting on my conference table is your resignation letter. You should sign it. If he says he won't sign it, well, then he should tell Mr. Santos that, one, you will not be seated on committees, you will not be welcomed into the House Republican Conference, and you can enjoy your time in Congress. I mean, that's how he should be dealt with. When Speaker Boehner was serving, and I served with him, and I was chair of the Ethics Committee, and I served 8 years on that committee, and I dealt with resignations of members. But I can tell you what the Ethics Committee is going to do to this guy. They're going to send him a letter asking 100 questions that he's not going to want to answer. It's going to cost him a pile of money to answer, and they're going to say, we want all these answers within 30 or 45 days. Good luck with that. He's going to have a tough time with this investigation. It's going to be brutal on him. And if he steps down, that one investigation goes away, but he'll still have several other investigations he has to deal with: federal, state, local, FEC, and elsewhere.